Okay. So you sent this over this YouTube video.
Yeah.
A billion more people are about to transform the internet. And wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really got me thinking about this whole idea of the digital divide in a way I hadn't really before.
Right.
It's like we talk about it, but 3 billion people offline.
Yeah, it's a staggering number, isn't it? And I think what's really interesting is, when we talk about this next billion users, we're talking about Asia, we're talking about the Middle East, we're talking about Africa. Yeah. And these are places that are really kind of on the cusp of this huge digital revolution.
Yeah, and this video actually, I don't know why, but it really clarified something for me that I think I kind of knew, but hadn't really fully internalized, which is like the difference between the internet and the web.
Right. Yeah, and they're not the same thing, right? Yeah. They're easy to use interchangeably, and we all do it,
right? But
they are distinct.
Yeah.
So, think about the internet as kind of the underlying infrastructure, right? The network of cables and servers that transmit data around the world. So that's the highway system, and the web is all of the content that we access using that highway system. So that's, all the websites and apps and everything else.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So when we talk about connecting the next billion users, we were talking about giving them access to that highway system, which logistically is
hugely challenging.
Yeah.
Hugely challenging, especially when you think about how do you physically lay down internet cable to every corner of the globe.
Yeah, it's like, I remember that Google project a while back where they were going to beam it down from giant balloons.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that?
It's funny you should mention that. I mean, as I recall, they actually had to scrap that project.
Really?
Yeah, it turns out keeping a global network of internet balloons aloft and operational even harder than it sounds.
Yeah, imagine.
But Google being Google, right? They don't really give up. Right.
They've actually pivoted to a different approach using lasers.
Lasers.
Yeah.
Like shooting the internet through the air with lasers.
Basically.
Is that even a thing?
Yeah, it's called Project Tara.
Okay.
And they're using lasers to beam high-speed internet between cell towers.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like creating this invisible fiber optic network through the air.
Okay, but how do you hit a target with a laser that's miles away? I mean, what about wind and birds and fog?
Yeah, you're hitting on the biggest challenge there, which is just the precision required.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about aiming a laser at a receiver that's the size of a chopstick, sometimes over 20 kilometers away.
Oh my gosh.
So they have to constantly adjust for atmospheric conditions, things like that.
Wow.
But when it works, it's a game changer for bringing high-speed internet to places that, you just can't run a fiber optic cable to.
Right. But, I mean, let's be real. This is Google we're talking about.
Sure.
There's a business angle here, right?
They're not just doing this out of the goodness of their hearts.
No. And they've been very open about that.
Good.
That, expanding internet access is good for business.
Right.
More users, more potential customers for their products.
Right. So it's kind of a win-win in a way. But I am curious about the impact this actually has on the ground.
Yeah.
Because the video that you sent, it touches on this story of Elias.
Yeah.
Who's this entrepreneur in Nairobi. And he's found this really interesting way to leverage this technology.
Yeah, and this is a great example of the importance of local solutions.
Right.
And, Elias basically created his own little mini internet service provider.
Wait, how do you even do that? I thought you needed tons of infrastructure to be an internet provider.
You do traditionally, but what Elias did was he figured out a way to basically divide and resell his own internet connection within his community.
Oh.
So he was able to offer a more affordable option to his neighbors.
That's so smart.
Yeah, very ingenious.
So did Google try to shut him down?
You know what? They did the opposite.
Okay.
They actually embraced his model, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because they realized that partnering with local entrepreneurs like Elias is a much more effective and sustainable way to expand their reach.
Yeah, it's like a win-win.
Exactly.
They get more users. Elias gets to build this business and empower his community.
It's a great story.
Yeah, it is. It really speaks to the fact that even with all this, technological advancement, that local knowledge and on-the-ground innovation is still so crucial.
Absolutely. And it also, I think, highlights a point that the video made, which is just because people have access to the internet doesn't mean that they know how to use it.
Right.
Right? You can lead a horse to water.
It's like having a library full of books and not knowing how to read.
Exactly.
Right.
So how do you bridge that gap? How do you make sure that the next billion users are equipped not just with the internet, but with the skills to use it effectively.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Well, that's where these digital literacy programs come in. And the video highlights a really cool example with this Center for Women's Empowerment in Technology.
Yeah, in Kenya.
In rural Kenya.
Yeah, Judy and Unis are doing amazing work.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Like, they're not just like setting up computer labs, right?
Yeah.
They're actually like teaching these women how to use this technology to change their lives.
It's about so much more than just technical skills, right? It's building confidence.
Yeah.
It's fostering critical thinking. It's empowering these women to become leaders.
Yeah, and I love that story about the woman who, like, she learns these digital skills and she starts this whole business selling, like, handcrafted goods online.
Yeah.
And she goes from, like, struggling to support her family to, like, employing other people in her village.
Yeah, it's a real testament to the power of technology when it's used for good.
Yeah.
When people have that access and that opportunity.
Totally. But we also have to acknowledge, I think, the other side of that coin, which is that, this increasingly digital world has a very real human cost.
Oh, absolutely.
That we often don't see.
100%. And the video, I thought, did a really good job of bringing that to light when they talked about content moderators.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mo's story especially.
Oh my gosh, heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The emotional toll of looking at the worst of the internet.
Day after day.
Day after day for very little pay, often with very little support. I mean, it really makes you confront the dark side of our digital lives.
Yeah, and it really, I know that it just kind of makes you think about, like, who bears the responsibility for that?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we all want a curated online experience.
Yeah.
But somebody's got to do that work.
Right. And are we doing enough to protect those people?
Yeah.
To support them, to make sure that they're okay?
It sounds like things are starting to change, though.
Yeah.
With these content moderator unions popping up.
Yeah, that's really encouraging to see.
Yeah, in Africa especially.
Yeah, giving a voice to these workers
Yeah.
who have largely been invisible and unheard. You know, fighting for better working conditions, fair wages, access to mental health care. I mean, it's a powerful reminder that even in the digital realm, workers' rights matter.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But on a like slightly more positive note, I was so blown away by this whole, like, I don't know, just like, I guess I always thought of, like, developing countries as, like, consumers of technology.
Right.
But this whole tech scene in Africa is incredible.
Yeah, and I think that's a misconception that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
You know, these countries aren't just adopting existing technologies. They are creating their own. They're innovating.
Yeah.
They're finding solutions that are tailored to their own unique challenges and opportunities.
Yeah. Adena Labs was like a prime example of that.
Really interesting company.
Yeah.
Using blockchain to revolutionize healthcare in Kenya.
Yeah.
Addressing issues like record keeping and access to medical information.
Right. And that's like a huge problem.
Huge problem.
Right.
And what they're doing is both innovative and incredibly impactful.
Yeah. And it's interesting because they see their innovations as having global potential as well.
Absolutely.
It's not just like a local solution.
Yeah, and what I think is really fascinating about what Adena Labs is doing is they're using blockchain technology.
Okay.
Which, you know, we often hear about in the context of cryptocurrency and things like that.
Right.
But it has so many other applications.
Right.
And what blockchain essentially is it's a decentralized and secure way to store and manage data.
Okay.
So essentially, it's a digital ledger.
Okay.
That is virtually tamper-proof.
Okay.
Right? So you can imagine in regions where you might not have that traditional infrastructure,
Right.
that kind of security and reliability is invaluable.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I'd never really thought about that.
Yeah.
Like, I always just kind of lumped it in with crypto.
Right?
But it can be applied to, like, finance.
Oh, yeah.
Supply chain management, all
sorts of things, yeah.
Wow. See, this is what I love about these deep dives.
Yeah.
Like, I always learn something new.
It's amazing what's happening out there.
It is.
I think with 1 billion more people poised to come online in the next few years,
Yeah.
we are just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, what is the internet going to look like?
Right.
In 5 years, 10 years?
Right. Is it going to be a mirror image of what we have now, or is it going to evolve in ways that we can't even imagine?
Right.
I think that's the billion-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's something that the video touched on towards the end.
Okay.
You know, Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the World Wide Web,
Right.
he had this vision of this open and accessible platform for information sharing and collaboration.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, that vision has been realized.
Yeah.
But we've also seen the internet become this double-edged sword,
Oh, yeah.
right?
For every good thing, there's like a bad.
Yeah, we've seen the rise of misinformation. We've seen online harassment. We've seen the unchecked power of these big tech companies.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge moving forward, and really the opportunity as we move into this next phase of internet growth, is how do we learn from the mistakes of the past?
Right.
And strive for something better, a more equitable, a more inclusive, a more ethical digital future.
Right. It's like, how do we not repeat the same mistakes that we've already made?
Exactly.
It's a tall order, but I don't know, I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess.
Yeah.
Seeing what people like Elias and Judy and Unis are doing,
Right.
it does give me hope.
Yeah, and it should, because it shows that even when faced with these huge systemic challenges,
Right.
the right combination of innovation and resourcefulness and dedication can make a real difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
So I guess with all this in mind,
Yeah.
like, what's the key takeaway here?
I think for me, it boils down to this: the internet, for all its flaws, still has incredible potential
Yeah.
to connect, to empower, to drive progress.
Yeah.
But we have to be mindful of the challenges, both
Okay.
new and existing, that come with connecting billions more people. It's about being aware of the human cost.
Right.
It's about advocating for digital equity.
Yeah.
And it's about recognizing that the internet's future isn't just about technological advancement.
Yeah.
It's about how we choose to shape it.
It's a choice.
It is. It really is. And it kind of begs the question for our listeners, like, what role are you going to play
Right.
in shaping this digital future?
Yeah.
Are you going to be a passive bystander, or are you going to actively try to help create a more inclusive and equitable online world?
It's a question worth asking
Yeah,
because, like it or not, the internet is a reflection of us.
100%.
It's the users.
Yeah,
It's all the good, all the bad,
yeah.
and everything in between. And
And as billions more people come online, those stakes are only getting higher.
right, like every choice we make,
Yeah.
every decision, it's all going to have this ripple effect.
Absolutely.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is pretty amazing, and it can feel a little daunting, right? To think about how do we even begin to grapple with these huge questions.
Right. But knowing that there are people like Elias and Judy and Unis out there
Yeah,
doing the work.
yeah, they give me hope.
Yeah.
They really do, because they demonstrate that even in the face of these massive challenges,
Yeah.
the right combination of innovation and resourcefulness and just a sheer will to make a difference can have a really powerful impact.
Totally. Well, with a billion more voices about to join the conversation, who knows what we'll see?
Right.
What kind of amazing innovations and solutions will come out of this next chapter of the internet?
It's an exciting time to be alive.
It really is. I'm very curious to see what happens.
Me too. And I have a feeling that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, this is just the beginning.
Exactly.
Well said. All right, so for our listeners out there,
Yeah.
keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, you have a voice in all of this.
You do.
You have the power to shape the future
That's right.
of the internet.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep diving deep.